Good afternoon, everybody. This is Tara Goldstein from New College with two of my students. We have Roland here and we have Layla here, and they are going to be our participants in this workshop on how to write a very strong application for the David Clandfield Scholarship Activist Scholarship Award. So what we are going to do is take a look at the requirements of the award. We will take a look at the application itself, and then we're going to talk about constructing a strong narrative that will resonate with the awards committee. So there are two documents that I've put in the chat. One is the David Clandfield Award notes, and I will share my screen so that will be part of the recording and the application form. But Layla and Roland can download those. I will start by sharing my screen with the notes. And the official title of the scholarship is the David Clandfield Scholarship in Scholarly Activism. And it's intended for critical studies in equity and solidarity students entering their fourth and final year of study. And so the application deadline is May 13th. And they will start accepting submissions as of March 31st. And the applications can be emailed to the New College Registrar, and here is their email. It's awarded to a student. This is the eligibility requirement. It's awarded to a student majoring in equity studies, entering their fourth or final year of study, and who shows the potential to contribute to social justice issues through what they are calling scholarly informed activism. And we'll talk that through. What does that mean? And what that means, just to begin us off, is that the activist work you do in your life, it could be your volunteer work, it could be your community work, it could be your family work. How has some of the ideas that you've been engaged with in your program, how is that informing your activist work? You need to include the application, and we're going to take a look at that. And this is what we're going to talk a lot about today, is the personal statement. You need to provide a statement that describes your activities in social justice advocacy or any other equity-oriented activity. So you need to think about, what am I going to describe? What work am I going to describe? You need to talk about your actual involvement, how you participate in the community events or the family events or the volunteer work that you're doing, how the equity courses you have taken have informed your advocacy work. That probably involves making a list of all the courses that you have taken in the Equity Studies program, maybe writing down 2 or 3 major takeaways that you've had from those courses, and seeing if you can see how any of those learnings have actually influenced your everyday advocacy and activism work. And then finally, they really want you to describe your future plans for justice work. It could be insider activism within schools and social work organizations. It could be in the public service. It can be in law. So we will talk both with Roland and Layla about their specific situation, and that will give us some great examples of how you might put together a really good statement. So you need to make sure all these 4 things are there. A description of the activities that you are going to put forward, your involvement in these activities, how the equity studies work that you've done has informed your advocacy and activism work, and your future plans. You also need to provide a copy of your resume. And if you haven't done any work on your resume, the Career Center holds workshops for it. And it's really worth your while to make time to take one. Once you take one resume writing workshop, you'll have a fantastic foundation for your resume, and you can keep building it. It's important for grad school. It's important for all kinds of things. Different opportunities require a different kind of resume, but if you have a good foundational resume, you always have the information there to use if somebody wants specific information. And they also want a copy of your academic history, and an Acorn printout is acceptable. So altogether, there are 4 things: the application, the personal statement, a copy of your resume, and a copy of your academic history. So when I am on a committee like this, I often make myself a little chart, right? And I look through the application. Let's say there are 3 applicants, and I put their names here. I look at the documents that are needed, and I put them here in my chart. So the personal statement, the resume, and the academic history. The application doesn't usually hold the detailed information I need. It's just a summary. So, and we'll see what that looks like. So then I put down all kinds of comments. I will put down here for applicant 1, they are talking about advocacy work with youth. They're talking about tutoring work with youth. They are talking about working with elders. They are talking about a research project that they are doing, collecting life history interviews from youth, from children, from parents, from families, from elders. So I give myself a reminder of what they're doing. I will make a comment about how well they've linked that up to their equity work. Oh, this student in their decision to do volunteer work or tutoring work with youth has talked about Tara's Equity, Activism, and Education course, and how the ideas of listening to the kids is an important learning that I've applied to my work. I look at the resume, which layers the personal statement. Oh yes, I see on the resume they have spent 3 years doing tutorial work. They have spent 6 months doing tutorial work. And the academic history, oh yes, I see that they did indeed take Tara's course, and they did very well. They had an A-. And so those are the 3 areas I look at to give me the information I need to the committee, because we go around in the committee and say, could we talk about each of the applicants? And so I always have a little worksheet, and you could do this worksheet for yourself to make sure that what you have in your resume is described in the personal statement. Something you describe in the personal statement also shows up in the resume. The course that you talk about in the personal statement shows up in your academic history. So all of your documents align to provide information about the narrative you're telling. And this as a strategy is great for everything. When you apply for an academic job, for example, you're often asked to do a personal statement, to provide your resume or your CV. And these things, if they align closely, the story you're telling in your personal statement and the story that shows up on your resume, and is validated by your academic history. Oh yeah, she did major in criminology. Oh yeah, he did major in political science. It all comes together as a story. Okay, so maybe I'll stop there and ask Leila or Roland if they have any questions about anything we've looked at so far. We're good?
Yeah, I think it's
Yes.
pretty straightforward.
Okay, excellent,
Yes.
perfect. Okay, so we'll stop that right there. And then I'm going to share again the application, just to make sure there isn't anything there that needs any information. So here's the application deadline, here's where it goes. They want a single PDF, so you have to put all those things together. If you're not sure on how to do that, they have this resource PDF merge. And if you're having trouble, just write to the New College registrar and they'll help you. So this is all very straightforward. The applicant information. They want you to check off that you've done all of this and that you've checked it, your mailing address is correct, and you're in good academic standing. What that means is you need a 1.5 or higher. Here is your supporting documentation. They want you to check off everything, and then they just want you to sign that all the information is correct. So I think that's pretty straightforward. You don't have any questions about that, right? We're good. Okay, so now comes the fun part. Roland and Layla, do you want to play with some of the ideas you have for a narrative? If you were to think about writing that personal statement, what part of your advocacy or your activism might you describe, and how would you link your courses to that?
So Prof, for now, I am not applying,
Right.
but I attended this workshop, to as a basis for understanding how the process of applications for these things work.
Right.
That's why I'm here. Having said that, I'm currently supporting the academic bridging programs for Woodward College. Yes, and so when you were explaining now, I've just had an idea in my mind of how to tie that with, the student liaison program with the activism in education, which we have just done with 345. And that has to do with the students we are supporting, our students, mature students who have left school for quite some times and are now back to school. And so Woodward hired us a student liaison to work with them collaboratively and see, how to help them, navigate school resources, writing centers and the meeting with the learning strategies and all of those. So that's what I've done for this times. And so I'm beginning to think that, okay, connecting them with some of the courses we have taken, now give me a more insight of, putting together a strong personal statement that will probably help if I'm to do that.
Fantastic. So, what details about your work with the academic bridging program might you include? And this might be good for something else if you wanted to apply for law school, for example. What do you do as somebody who works for the academic bridging program? What does your everyday work look like?
So we review the student syllabus.
Yes.
So we have a review section, which is 1 hour before the 3 hours lecture with the professor.
Yeah.
So basically because haven't gone through the same process, then the Woodward College said, we go through the students' syllabus, look at some of the things they are to study for each week. Then we review their section with them based on the past experience we have had and, give them kind of study hints, how we have navigated that same process, the things we have done that bring about our own success for us to be able to manage that review sections with them. And all of those is what we do within 1 hour. Then we attend the 3 hours lecture, see some of the points the professors, articulates, and then when we come back again to another review sections, we kind of point them in those directions that, did you take note of when the professor was talking? These are the places the professor was emphasizing that you need to take note when you are doing your personal studies. So those are some of the things that we do during those review sections.
So that's perfect. So that answers that part of the application that asks for details, right? So that would be all part of your story. And in doing that very particular work with students, how has our course, Activism, Equity, Activism, and Education, help you do that better? What are some of the ideas that we've talked about that might help you do that very specific work better?
One of them is providing convincing students that Woodward College, for instance, where I serve, have an enabling ground they have created for mature students who are out of school and who are now back, that they've got all the support they needed to do that job. And one of those supports provided by Woodward is, hiring us to work hand in hand with them. As I'm a mature student too, and say, look, myself, I'm a mature student. I went through this program. The Woodward College gave me all the support that I needed. And today, to the glory of God, I'm doing very well. So those are some of the kind of things that we reinforcing them that, look, we did it, you can do it.
Fantastic. So, if you think about what we've learned about the importance of individual practice and institutional practice, the program as itself is a U of T institutional practice that really is there to support students who need support to ensure success. And by hiring individuals who have been through the program themselves and have experienced success, they are making sure the individuals that are working in the program have the experience and can have lives that resonate with the students who are in it. So that would make a very compelling application, and is a perfect example of how to link something that you have learned in your class that's important to your work. That's great. Yeah, fantastic. That's great. And Leila, it's your turn. Is there a particular kind of work that you can point to right now in terms of advocacy or support or activism?
I mean, yeah, there's many things. Yeah, it's funny. I don't usually like look back on things that I partake in advocacy and activism. I just feel like I do it just because it's just a part of who I am. But um, I just feel like, I work with children. I'm a mentor. I worked at Sick Kids with children. So maybe around children advocacy within marginalized communities. I like art-based research, community research. A lot of the things that I do are interrelated with the BIPOC collective, so Indigenous peoples and stuff like that, advocating for their rights, their right to, their freedom to land, their identities. Yeah, there's just many. I just have to sit and think about this for a while, but yeah, I think it's a great application, provided from New College. It really helps students reflect on the journey that they've come from. A lot of the times that's hard for me to go back and think of how far like I've came, but classes like yours is like amazing. I think it's one of my favorite classes that I've had throughout the academic journey. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, there's just many things that I could apply to this application. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what you're going to need to do is figure out, do you want to do one thing in depth, or do you want to do two things or three things? And it's a really interesting thing to think about. You could have everything that you've done on your CV, mention the many things that you've done, and say, in this particular application, I'm focusing on this particular piece of work, and I'm going to do that in order to provide a direct link to this course or that course. And what I like about that strategy is it directs the award committee's attention to a number of things that you've done that is actually also appears on your CV. You're reminding them to go to the CV, but you're using the space in the personal statement to focus on one in some depth, right? And so that's one strategy. Or if you really want to talk about 2 or 3 aspects of your work and link it to 2 or 3 courses, that's another strategy as well. But if you do focus on one and go for depth, reminding them that there are others, naming them, and referring people to the CV gives them a global understanding of what you're doing and allows them to focus in. So that would be 2 ways to go about that.
Okay, that helps.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good. And again, the more specific you are around the mentorship, what exactly did you do as a mentor? When you worked with the collectives, what did you do? Details are always terrific. And I loved what you said, Leila, about it being a foundation, because on most applications, you're asked to reflect upon your past work and what you have learned from it. So once you start having some writing about any of that, it's there on your computer, and you can go back to it and pull that out and make good use of it.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
Great. So I don't think there's anything more. We've gone through the requirements. We've gone through the application process. We've explored a few possible ways of writing that personal statement for this award and others. Unless you have questions, I think we can close up the workshop. Is there anything else that you're thinking about that you wanted to ask about?
I've added another knowledge to my library without paying.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. This is going to be so useful for me. So I've applied for several scholarships at the University of Ghana, and I've got them. I applied for library, scholarship programs where they say submit one of your finance paper where you have, submit one of my, I got it. So I've applied, but having this understanding now, I've applied some, they turn it down. Now, listening to this give me some kind of sense that, there's something I need to do more. Yes.
Well, congratulations on all your success. You're clearly doing lots of things right, but it is a life skill, and if you're going to have an academic and a professional life, especially if you're going to be looking for funding, if not for yourself, for your project, having continued professional development on how to do a good application, it's foundational, right? So I'm glad that it was helpful. So I think if there isn't anything else, we'll say thank you to Roland and Leila for providing me with an audience to speak to, because it's so much better when I can speak to people. And we'll wish anybody who is listening today on this recording good luck with this award application and all of the others in your future. Okay, bye-bye.